I pulled up the website to a Christian trauma therapist that I had been Googling, and I fill out the form, I send it, I show it to her, and I said, okay. And that started the process of healing, of getting to the root, of really fleshing out what are those things that I'm trying to run and escape from. Why don't I want to be with myself? Why don't I want to be with my own thoughts? Why am I, and this is such a buzzword now, but it's true. Why, when I'm triggered during an argument with my wife, why is that triggering?
Right.
That's stupid.
Right.
I shouldn't be triggered by that, but I am.
Yeah.
And why would I rather then have 4 bourbons instead of talk it out?
Welcome back to another episode of Politely Rude. I'm so glad that you have joined us. And today we have an in-person guest.
I'm excited.
I am excited too.
Which we this is the first time we've met in person, but we've been talking for years.
I know. I feel like we've met in person before, but we have not.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited. We have Jon Seidl in the house today. Jon, if people have watched the show, they know you.
Yeah.
They know your story. They know who you are. I have your bio.
It's all lies anyways,
I mean, right.
Yeah.
You're a writer. You've been telling stories your whole life.
Yeah, I started in the news business.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where we first crossed paths.
Yeah.
Back when I was in conservative news.
Right.
Helped start the Blaze. I not only met, I was Billy Hallowell's boss, who I think a lot of people know.
Yeah. Now he's kind of my boss.
Yeah, right. We don't talk about that. And then went to I'm Second, and then did a bunch of other stuff. Kirk Cameron, started my own thing, wrote a book about faith and mental health, which I think was like the last time.
Yeah, that was what we talked about last time.
I was on the show, and then my life fell apart, and so then it was great.
Right. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
But you also run a daily devotional. Site.
That's been a really fun, unexpected thing. I started that about 2 years ago, and didn't set out to write every day, but through this process of putting my life back together, become way more in tune with the Holy Spirit and what He says and when He says to do stuff, and He was just like, write every day. I'm like, for how long? He's like, until I tell you not to.
Like forever.
And it's been, I did take a break this last summer for a couple weeks, or a couple months, I should say. And it's just last time I checked, it was 15,000 subscribers. And I'm like,
wow.
Where are these people coming from?
Yeah. And by the way, it's called the Veritas Daily.com.
Yes, the VeritasDaily.com. Veritas for truth,
right,
in Latin, which I do have tattooed, not on this arm, but on this arm. And so it's just kind of like daily nuggets. And so I get up, I spend time with the Lord, and I write what kind of comes out of that, mostly, although sometimes, I'm like, I've been noodling something, because I'm also finishing seminary, and so there's some things that you think about through that period, and so I just write it, and people like it, I guess.
Yeah, they're signing up, so they like it. You have a new book.
Yeah.
Out.
The book I didn't want to write.
Yeah.
For sure.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's called Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. And 2021, I should say this. It's my story of, I'm the Christian who became an alcoholic, not the other way around.
Right.
And generally, the church, Christendom, is okay with the other way around, right?
Well, that's usually how the story is, right?
Yeah.
I'm an alcoholic who came to Christ.
Yep. And it's like,
yeah,
okay. We'll stand up and we'll cheer for that.
We get that conversion story.
Exactly.
Right? Yep.
But what about the people who are Christians that become alcoholics?
Yeah.
And I know that, and we'll talk about this a little bit in a little bit, but I know that there are plenty of us out there, and in fact, your husband was a big inspiration for me. And
because my husband was one.
Yeah. Exactly. And I remember getting towards the end, if you will. Doug does this big anniversary post, like every sobriety anniversary.
Right.
And I remember seeing that for like 2 years and always thinking, that's interesting, and just like filing it back away.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the truth is, like, the church just doesn't know, I think, really what to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't fit into a perfect box. We don't fit into what I've come to find out is plenty of people's theology when it comes to sanctification and sin and what it looks like. I've had some people tell me, well, you're a Christian now, obviously, but you weren't then.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to write this book because I didn't want to face that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's embarrassing, And, but the Lord, like I said, I've become more in tune with the Holy Spirit. He's like, you're going to write this book. And so it's my story of coming to the end of myself, for one, but also like, how do you become a Christian alcoholic? Like, what goes into that, right? And so it goes through some stuff that some people are uncomfortable with me talking about, about what it looks like to dig into past issues, traumas, what it looks like to have a head knowledge of your faith and not have a heart experiential aspect to your faith. And then it walks through the 4 steps that I took to really come back to the Lord and to really finally kick it. Because I had tried throughout the years.
Sure.
And been successful, right, for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
But it never stuck. And so the 4 steps, I call them, which are not like, it's not like I sat there and said, hit rock bottom and said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. But after I really got through the big chunk of wading through why, and the Lord was like, write this is your next book. I kind of sat back and said, okay, what are those things that I did? Because I'm a different person, like,
sure.
And I see it, my wife sees it, which is a big aspect. And what did I do? And so these were kind of the 4 steps. So that's the book in a nutshell. That's the overview.
Yeah. What was your rock bottom? Like, what got you to the point where you said, I have to do something?
So before I get there, I'll take you back a little bit. So 2021, which is I think when I first came on the podcast, I released a book on faith and mental health called Finding Rest. And that's my journey of being diagnosed with OCD and anxiety, and what does it look like to be a Christian that struggles with this proper theology of suffering. And
very good book.
Why
by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Why I'm, why I take medication and how those are things that's compatible with faith, and you can't just pray this way. So all that stuff.
Which also, by the way, is something that the church doesn't know how to deal with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Yes.
And it's funny, I get to actually share the name because it's a common name we know, but I usually say a friend of mine who wrote a bunch of books called me up. I can say Billy Hallowell
Yes.
called me up right around when the book was coming out. And he said, you need to be careful. And I said, okay. He said, you write a book, you've put 2 years of your life into this, and he said, you will hit a point when the book releases after you've done like the tornado of the press tour, and you're going to feel empty. You're going to feel like, he didn't say this, but this is how I explain it. Like Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights, like, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
And I was like, thanks, Billy. But I'm thinking, I said like, oh, thank you, I'll be careful. In my head, I'm like, I'm writing the book on faith and mental health. Like, I think I can handle that. Like, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Sure enough, about a month into it, so you get October when everything dies down. And I realized that the worst day of publishing a book is the day it comes out. And it's just, you build up, and what I realized is I built up all these expectations in my mind. Now listen, the book did well.
Sure.
Right? Like top 100 books on all of Amazon, was a bestseller in so many categories, but it didn't make the New York Times bestseller list.
Sure.
Yeah, I got a Publisher's Weekly review, but the Wall Street Journal didn't review it.
Right.
You know, and so you just start playing these things, and then the devil gets a hold of that too, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, this didn't help anyone. Right. No one read it, you know?
Right.
And I start feeling all that. And I really that was really the start of my slide. I call it a slow fade. There's a chapter in the new book, a slow fade. And that was the catalyst. And so that's like October, November 2021, December 2021. At this point, after working for some of the people that we had talked about in the intro, I had started my own company and was doing digital media consulting for a variety of people. But that year, I had a really big client who basically bought all my time. Mm-hmm. And I was making the most money of my life, and I'm like, this is awesome. I got a book coming out. I'm making great money. This is amazing. 2 weeks before Christmas, they call me. They say, hey, we're going in a different direction with the company. You're a contractor, and that was it. To try to find a new job, a new client, whatever.
2 weeks before Christmas. Yeah.
And the blessing and the curse of them being a big client was they were pretty much my only client.
Right.
Right. And so that hits me hard. Mm-hmm. Fast forward to the next spring, and I'd gotten another client, but then same thing. This was like the recession that wasn't a recession, that was a recession, whatever. And they're like, hey, we can do this cheaper in-house. We're going to bring it in-house. Okay. My son starts limping around. We take him to the doctor, and he's diagnosed at 4 years old with a tumor in his shin. And I mean, it's just wave after wave after wave. We find out the tumor is benign, but even just that process, And you go to fall of 2022, had a really good friend who he slips into depression, like a really, really dark, deep depression. And I'm already there, but then we just become this like depression tornado.
Yeah. Commiserating about how terrible your life is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so and during that time, I just start drinking more and more and more, and I have more and more time on my hands. Mm-hmm. And so it just, it's a slow fade, like I said. And so, what starts as a bourbon at night turns into 2, turns into 4, turns into starting at 3.
Now, let me ask you a question. Did you like the drink? Like, did you like the taste of the drink? Or did you just like the feeling that it gave you?
I do like the drink. And I'll say this, like now, like I'll go on a run and I'll come home and I'll drink like a non-alcoholic beer. Like,
yeah.
That's refreshing to me.
Okay. Yeah. So that was the problem for Doug, because like when I was in college, I don't like beer.
Yeah.
But I'll drink a beer. I'll drink a bunch of beers because I wanted to get drunk.
Yes. Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Like, I don't like vodka shots, but I'll down 5 of them because I wanted to be drunk. Right? I wanted the feeling.
Right.
That, like, I can't even smell whiskey because I'm like, whoa, that smells like college throw up. Like I can't do it. But Doug likes whiskey. Like, he likes the taste of it. Yeah. He loves craft beer. Yeah. Like, so I think that made it harder for him because it wasn't even like he was trying to get drunk. He just loved the taste of it. And then if it numbed him out a little bit, that was okay too.
Right.
Yeah,
I like the burn. I like the burn.
That's what he says.
Yep.
I like the
exactly.
burn. Yeah.
And so, you just, to your point, is then you start realizing, man, that feeling of failure where I'm not working as much, where I'm not, feeling like I'm providing, where I'm scared, where I'm whatever, it's really easy and cheap to just have another glass to give me relief.
Yeah.
And I just kept building off of that until, 5 o'clock becomes 3 o'clock, becomes 1 o'clock, becomes 10 o'clock in the morning. And by May 2023 is when that's where it kind of culminates. Now, I had always had what I would call a misordered relationship with alcohol. And I talk about in the book how anything that's misordered is disordered.
Yeah.
Whether that's food, whether that's exercise, whether that's your kids.
Yeah.
Anything that's misordered is disordered, right? And I go through pains to talk about in the first chapter how we're defining alcoholism. I use it in the title, and I tell people but I really go through the nuance because, in fact, the medical community changed how they diagnosed it instead of being so binary. It's now a spectrum like autism.
Right.
So I get to May 2023, and my wife and I go on an anniversary trip. It's our 14-year anniversary. And we got married around Memorial Day, so we always try to find a fun place to go. Months earlier, we had booked this trip, South Beach. I'd never been, and so we're like, okay, we're going to South Beach.
Right.
We go to South Beach, and I had actually gone through, like I said, I was always up and down. I'd gone through a period 2 weeks prior to going where I had stopped drinking. And I get on the trip and I said, well, I've gone 2 weeks. I'm obviously good. Like, I can stop. I've had a good break.
Right.
I'll treat myself. Treat yourself, right?
Yeah, treat yourself.
And so get to the Miami trip, and there's one night in particular. So I'm drinking a little bit. We're drinking at dinner, but nothing crazy. And one night, my wife says, hey, I'd like to kind of just have a night in. She's a reader, you know. She's like, I'm just going to stay in the hotel room and read. She's like, you can do whatever you want. And I'm like, well, I'm not a go-out guy. I'm not like a club guy. So I'm like, I'm just going to go down to the hotel bar. I'll have some apps and a couple beers. There's a playoff game on for the NBA, hockey. And she looks at me, and as I'm leaving the room, she says, don't get drunk. Because by this time, you know what it's like to be that wife. How do you say something without saying something, without offending, without
getting in a fight?
Exactly. And I said, I'm not going to get drunk. And here's the thing, Abby. I can say this. I had every intention of not getting drunk that night. I go down to the bar.
Do you think she believed you when you said, I'm not going to get drunk?
No way.
Yeah.
No way. And so I go down to the bar. Bartender, still, his name's like Jorge. And I'm like, what's your special? He's like, we have a gin martini. I'm like, perfect. I love gin. He's like, they're kind of strong. And I'm like,
yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long night short it's before I know it, it's 1 in the morning. I don't know how many I've had. I'm paying a bar tab that I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Triple digits. And I'm like, I can't go up to the room. I told her I was not going to get drunk. And I can't stumble in there because I am blitzed. Pay the bill. And I say, you know what? The only thing that can sober you up is time. I'm going to walk down to the beach. I'm going to sober up. So I walk down to the beach, which is literally right across the street. I get down to the beach. And one thing you don't realize is how many people are on the beach in Miami at 1 in the morning. It's way more people than you think.
Yeah, it's kind of crowded all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's drinking going on. You're smelling a lot of other stuff. And you're like, okay. So I get down there, and pretty quickly, I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom. I can't make it back to the hotel. What am I going to do? And so I look out, and I'm like, I've got the world's biggest toilet in front of me. And so clothes on, I walk out, I wade into the ocean. I'm like up to my neck. I start going to the bathroom, and it starts coming out of both ends.
Oh no.
And I just have this moment where I I look up, I'm wading in my own feces, and I'm like, what has your life become?
Yeah.
Because I really did set out not to get drunk that night.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is what happens when I set out to not drink. This is what happens when I promise not to drink.
Yeah.
I wake up the next morning, and my wife asks me, did you get drunk last night? And so quickly and so easily, I say, no. 2 other times that day, I call it my Peter moment. So total of 3 times throughout the morning, she says, did you get drunk last night? And I said, no. And it just is eating me up. And we go out to dinner that night, and I'm like, I can't do this. And we sit down, and I say, hey, I got to tell you something. I said, I did get drunk last night. And she says, I knew you got drunk last night. And she goes, but I wanted you to say it.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you know, you lied so quickly and so easily. She said, I don't think you know what that does to a woman. What else are you lying about?
Mm-hmm.
And so we walk back, ironically, down to the beach, hand in hand, but like not saying a word, you know? And we get there, and I start making all the promises. Mm-hmm. I'm never going to drink again. I'm going to get help. I know I need help. I swear I didn't set out to get drunk, you know, all the things. And she looks at me, and she says, Jon, I don't care if you ever drink again. That's not my goal. She said, because if you don't get to the bottom of why you're doing this, it's just going to be something else. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, maybe it's not alcohol, but what else is it going to be? Mm-hmm. And I kind of think in my head, I'm like, can we just go back to the not drinking part?
Like, yeah, right.
That would be easier.
That's actually harder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, I had things in my past that I had never dealt with.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to dredge them up, mm-hmm. you know? And someone asked me this once. They said, you know, Jon, like, what does your past trauma, your whatever, you're telling me that what happened to you at 6 is what you're drinking away at 36? And I said, sometimes. But really, it's my ultimate addiction was not to alcohol. My ultimate addiction was to escape. Mm-hmm. And what happened at 6 and 12 and 14 and that period in my life is your brain can't process that. Mm-hmm. So what do? You escape. And so at 6, it's playing with Tonka toys. At 14, it's masturbation, right? Right. But you just learn, I don't want to deal with this. I don't, you know. And so you learn these patterns of escape that then...
Well, it's coping mechanisms.
Yes, exactly.
It's unhealthy coping mechanisms. Right. So, and it's habit forming.
Exactly.
So.
And so when you get to be 36 or 21, because I really didn't start drinking until I was 21. Now, the first time I got drunk was around 12 or 13, but I wasn't like I get drunk the first time and I'm down the hole.
Right.
And so, you know, I hit the hardest part of my life at 30, 3, 34, 35, 36. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier to go get a bottle of bourbon mm-hmm. and to drink that than to have to sit with the feelings of helplessness, than to sit with the feelings of inadequacy and go to therapy, right? Like, that's easy. And so you get addicted to the escape and the coping mechanisms. And so, so I said, okay, I'll do that. We had been starting to talk about this. And so literally that night, I pulled up the website to a Christian trauma therapist that I had been Googling, and I fill out the form, I send it, I show it to her, and I said, okay. And that started the process of healing, of getting to the root, of really fleshing out what are those things that I'm trying to run and escape? Why don't I want to be with myself? Why don't I want to be with my own thoughts? Why am I, and this is such a buzzword now, but it's true. Why, when I'm triggered during an argument with my wife, why is that triggering?
Right.
That's stupid.
Right.
I shouldn't be triggered by that, but I am.
Yeah.
And why would I rather then have 4 bourbons instead of talk it out?
Yeah.
And
I think that's something that's like relatable. It should be relatable to everybody, right? Like I'll give you an example from my own life. Like I don't like yelling. I don't like yelling. Okay. I don't yell. I don't yell at my kids. I'm not a yeller. That I'm not saying that makes me like a great mom because I don't yell. Okay, like I have other flaws, trust me. But I'm not a yeller. I never have been. Doug is Italian and a yeller. Okay, like he's just loud. You know, like he kind of just comes from that.
Yeah.
You know, and so he's like he'll be yelling. And I'm like, oh my God, stop yelling. And he's like, I'm not yelling. And I'm like, no, that was a yell. Like to me, that was a yell.
Yeah.
Right. And then I was like, why does that bother me so much? Like, why does it? And then I realized like I came from a family that did not yell. Like my family was very calm. Like I was not yelled at as a child. Right. So when I hear yelling, I immediately think, somebody's like upset with me or and so I go into this like fight or flight response. Right, when I hear yelling, and it makes me feel that way for my kids. Like I don't like it. Right. And it makes me feel anxious. It makes me feel just like I gotta get out of here, you know. And so it would make me mad at Doug. Like it would make me mad, and I would like be like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Like I don't want to talk. And he'd be like, I wasn't even yelling. Like I wasn't, and I would be like, you were yelling. Like and it caused this like constant friction when we were first married. And I had to come to understanding. Like I had to come to a realization, like, why does this bother me so much?
Yeah.
And I had to go to him and be like, okay, this is what's going on in my head when you do this. Yeah. I think this is why. Like, I think because I'm just not used to it. Like it just bothers me. I remember one time in my whole life, I heard my parents get in a fight. One time. And I remember walking into the room and going, are you guys getting a divorce? One time, my whole childhood, I heard my parents fight. They were intentional about keeping that away from me. And so when I hear it, it just sends me over the edge. And so I like explained that to him, and he was like, okay, like I'll be better about that. So it's like just little things like that. Yeah. And that's a very minor example, but I'm just saying it's like, and so when you say like, okay, these things happened to me when I was, 6 and 12 and whatever, it's not like you're sitting there drinking, thinking about what happened to you when you're 6. It's just that those created different mechanisms in your life.
Absolutely.
That created habitual patterns throughout your life. And it causes you to behave in certain ways. And we all have that.
That we don't think about.
We don't even think about it.
One of the things that I've loved in this process and journey of writing the book, of therapy, is really coming to understand the science.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's been really helpful for me and freeing is, when you're triggered, like what you're talking about that with Doug, you're literally not thinking with the thinking part of your brain. Right. It's happening in your amygdala. Mm-hmm. It's happening in the back part of your brain. They call it the reptilian brain. That's not like an evolution thing. That's just what they call it. Yeah. The reptilian brain instead of your prefrontal cortex. So part of my therapy has been how to interrupt the amygdala that wants to respond and then retreat and then hide and all that stuff.
It's a very primitive part of your brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how to then introduce the thoughts and pull them to the prefrontal cortex where you're reasoning and you're thinking, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, and ironically, yelling was a thing for me. I had a sister who, I say in the book, like, I don't know if I've ever seen someone possessed, but that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
What she was like is what it would look like growing up. And so my son went through a period, and he's still very expressive, very loud.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time connecting with him in the first like year, 2 years of his life, because he would scream.
Yeah.
And and it would do something to me. And I'm like, I'm a horrible person. I'm a horrible father. Why can't I connect with my kid?
Yeah.
And it was because my body was reacting because I grew up with those screams. And when I heard those screams, it was all bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you even realize it though at the time? Or
No.
did you have to think about it?
No,
Yeah.
I had to go through therapy.
Yeah.
And say like, why am I a horrible dad?
Yeah.
You know? And they're like, well, here's what's happening. Okay. And then you get exercise. And so, so that was like the year of my life after, I say like, I pulled up to my therapist's office every week for a year. I still do. In fact, spoiler, came from a therapy appointment this morning to here, right? Where we're just digging through things still. You know, I've uncovered a lot of stuff. I've worked through that stuff. And then I'm like, well, why am I triggered by that? You know?
Yeah.
And like, let's work through that, you know? And I can tell you that part of that process too was inviting Jesus in. You know, I think this can be a controversial thing, and I don't think it should be, but I tell people is like, and even Christians sometimes, especially Christians who I think have been really, maybe co-opted is the wrong word, but by the secular community, they don't like you to talk about addiction in any way related to sin.
Yeah.
And what I say is, they're like, it's a physical disease. And what I say is, it's both.
Yeah.
Right? There were spiritual issues going on in my life. Sin caused what happened to me at 6 and 12 and 14, right? And sin said, escape, right? Run and hide. Genesis, right?
Yeah.
Run and hide. And so and also like my decisions are my decisions, right? It's not like something just took over my body and I'm like having this out of body experience as I'm drinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I don't really like about some of the kind of alcohol community, I guess, is this idea that, well, if you're an alcoholic, you're just predisposed to it and you just can't run from it. Like you're just set up to be an alcoholic. You know, and I'm like, we have choices.
Yeah.
You know, we have choices.
I made a lot of those choices
Yeah.
and I knew I was, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, there are consequences for those choices.
Yes.
That I say like all talking about trauma and all this kind, like it's not a get out of jail free card. In fact, you may have to go to jail for some of the things
Yes.
that you've done,
Yeah.
right? If I'm caught, get a DUI, I can't say, officer, you have no idea what happened to me at 6.
Yeah. Or I'm predisposed
Right.
to alcoholism.
Right.
So like you gotta give me a break.
And here's what I think, Abby, like both things can be true.
Yes.
I think the problem we have is some people say it's only this, it's only spiritual.
Right.
And these people say it's only physical. And I'm like, it's both,
It's both.
and.
Yeah.
Right? There's physical issues that like at some point, I can't tell you exactly when, but as I'm abusing the substance, like it becomes a point where I can say I'm not going to get drunk and I can't just have one.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
there becomes a physical addiction. There becomes like,
Totally.
you can't deny that, right? When I stopped drinking cold turkey, I thought one of the things I told myself is I didn't get the shakes last time when I quit 2 weeks ago, Well, that last time I quit, I didn't get the shakes, but I woke up with night sweats so bad that I have to change my sheets and I have to change my pajamas every night.
Yeah.
Because there's my autonomic nervous system was just jacked up.
Yeah.
Right? There was a physical thing. And so, we invite Jesus in, the healing happens, and life gets awful. You know, like I tell people, if you've been relying on a coping mechanism like I have, and you take it out, I'm not here to tell you that life is just like going to be peaches and cream.
Right.
You know, like I had to grieve it. People are like, really? It's like, yeah. Because guess what? Alcohol was there for me when my family wasn't.
Yeah.
Alcohol was there for me when my wife was mad at me. Alcohol was there for me when I was sad. It was there for me when I was happy. You know, I had to grieve it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. It got to the point where I didn't know how to celebrate, be upset, be happy, be depressed. Like I didn't know how to do anything without it, you know?
And let me tell you something. That is exactly how I felt with food.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly how I felt.
Right.
When I made changes to the way I was eating and all this kind of stuff, I talked to a counselor and she said, you will grieve the loss of the way you have been eating. And I was like, okay. Like, well, I mean, like, it's food, whatever. And we went to it was Father's Day. We went to a dinner. And everybody was like eating these, dinner, like big fun dinners, and they were getting dessert and stuff. And I was eating a salad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wanted to cry. I was sitting there looking at everybody else's fun meals, you know?
Yep.
And I'm eating this little salad, and I thought I was going to cry. Yeah. And I know that's like no comparison to alcoholism, but like any addiction you have, when you give it up, there is a grieving that takes place.
100%. And I think, you said, I actually think it's very fair to compare it to food, right? Like in the sense that, and this goes back to that misordered is disordered. And this is why I think,
I had a very disordered,
yeah,
relationship with food.
And I think you can be just as addicted, right? But I think, and this is where, to bring it all the way back around, this is where I think Christians are okay with those. I'm calling them this, not to discredit anyone who's, but like they're the softer addictions.
Well, Christians are fine with gluttony.
Yeah.
I mean, they throw huge potlucks and everybody gorges themselves on food.
Right.
They're fine with gluttony.
Right.
They're not fine with alcoholism. Right. Well, unless you're Catholic.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's one thing I've called out a lot and have gotten a lot of heat for. I'm so sick of, because I am Catholic, I'm so sick of going to parish festival after parish festival and seeing just the enormous amount of alcohol at every parish festival. They say like Protestants drink in private, Catholics drink in public, but everybody's drinking.
Yep.
And I guess I would rather it be in public, but I'd really rather it not be at all. And there are so many people struggling with alcohol addiction in the church.
Yes.
And here we are at these festivals just letting it loose.
Yep.
Right? Just, and that's the stereotype.
And what's funny, I literally talk about those. I don't name them the parish festivals, but I grew up in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Wisconsin is a very heavily Catholic. People are like German. Mm-hmm. It's very German, but so people are like, oh, Lutherans. No, it's all Catholic, mm-hmm. right? And so I say I grew up that beer was a part of everything, including the church picnics.
Yes.
People are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, there was literally a beer trailer, a beer truck at every church picnic, right?
Yeah.
And so the culture that I grew up in was that. Mm-hmm. And I think, and here's what's funny, on my own podcast, I interviewed a very liberal Episcopalian priestess.
Okay.
And what is so funny is she had no idea this was happening in conservative circles. She's like, what? She goes, because she's calling it out in her circles. Mm. She's like, all all of us progressive liberals make fun of you uptight conservative people. And I'm like, yeah. And we, like we look at you guys and it's like everyone's kind of looking at each other and being like, but they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not a liberal thing. It's not a conservative thing. It's like everyone's doing it, right? Yeah. It's permeated all aspects of the church. And I don't think we realize it.
Right.
So there I was, and I start realizing, okay, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it because I start seeing changes. And it didn't take long though to start seeing changes, right? Like you start noticing physical changes, but you start realizing that like when you don't have the alcohol to turn to, you have you literally, unless I'm going to jump off a bridge, and I don't say that lightly, right? Because there was some of that. I got to turn to Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. And in that process, in that year, I became someone who I don't recognize. And I know there's like friends and family back home probably like watching this, like, who is that guy? And it's like, I absolutely had to, these are where the 4 steps come in. I had to abide with Christ. I had to find my true identity. I had to practice radical vulnerability, and I had to be obedient. And by doing those 4 things, my life changed in a way that I'm like, what? And here's the irony. I said that I started that slow, it was a slow fade, and then it was really that year and a half from 2021 to 2023. I said that was like the hardest part of my life. That's been supplanted by the last, year. May of 21, my wife got in a car accident, changed her health dramatically. She just had a surgery last Friday. Like, my mother-in-law is home with her right now, because I can't be there. The Lord's like, go to seminary. I'm like, that's crazy. He's like, do it. I'm like, where's the money going to come from? He's like, I'll provide. I'm literally, so I joke that like my wife is my sugar mama, because I am not, not only am I not contributing, because in order to do this, I'm like, all right, Lord, I'll take a year off, right? So I put my job on hold, and I'm shoving 2.5 years into 1 calendar year. And so I joke, like, not only am I not contributing, but my wife is paying for seminary as well, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm drawing, right? And yet, so I would say that's actually been this has been the hardest year, and it's been the sweetest.
Yeah.
Like, what I have learned about being a child of God and what it looks like to have your identity in Him far outweighs the 4 or 5 bourbons at night and the numbing it, and just not wanting to sit with it. And, I know you know this with Doug, but I think the biggest moment for me was we were sitting with some friends who had come over. We were playing with, I don't know, Settlers of Catan or something. I don't know. And we start kind of telling them, about the last year. And my wife's name is Brett. Brett stops me and she goes, yeah, and he's different. And I'm like, I kind of have that moment. I'm like getting teary-eyed because it's like you feel a change, I think. You're like, this feels different to me. But when your wife can call it out, right? And that doesn't mean like it's been all roses and butterflies since then, right? Like, we still go to marriage counseling because now, like, there's still stuff that now she's like, okay, you're 2.5 years in. Now I feel comfortable enough to say this, because before it was a fight or it was a thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the long version of the story and where I've come to. And I think, I'm so thankful for people like Doug. And that's why, when the Lord said, this is your next book, I said, hell no. And I fought with him because I'm like, I'm willing to talk about it to like friends and family. And if the pastor wants to send me a guy that he knows is struggling, but I'm like, I'm not going to be public about this. It's embarrassing. The Christian who became an alcoholic, right? I'm supposed to, those people I said earlier that are like, you weren't a Christian, or, what a hypocrite.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate people that say stuff like that. It's like I talk about, there's girls sitting in your church who are going, to have abortions, and they're like, well, they're not Christians. I'm like, of course they are. They're just sinners.
Yes.
Like, but surprise, you're a sinner too. Like, surprise, you are a Christian and you're sinning too.
And that's what really, like, I've become passionate about with this book is what people don't realize is grace and sanctification is not just for the little sins.
No.
It's not just for flipping someone off in
Right.
traffic.
Yeah.
Or being the person that's like, okay, little Mildred now, she doesn't curse anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's for that pastor that fell last week that you can't stand. It's for him
Right.
too. Like, what are you going to do about that? Right.
Yeah.
Not like, yes, repentance is key. Right. And like I said before, like there's going to be consequences.
Yeah.
But when that person repents, like, what are you going to do about that? And God's offering that grace to them even before. He's saying, come, and I say, we're all about come as you are, but what about stay as you become?
I remember just recently there was a thing with the guy, and I'm sorry, I don't listen to Christian music, but the guy from the Newsboys.
Yeah, Michael Tate.
Yeah, just had a big
Yeah.
thing, The people that were condemning him, he puts out this very gracious statement, very humble, repentant statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand why he did it. He was a public figure, and it came out publicly, and I think that was probably the appropriate thing to do. But he comes out very humbly. This is what was going on in my life, blah, blah, blah. Sorry,
I think he's like, it's all true.
It's all true. Yep, I did it. Here it is. The way people were just going after him. And I just thought, who are you? Like, who are you people? You would not have the courage to put your biggest sins on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have the courage to put your biggest sins on a movie screen.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who do that, and you condemn them. But you wouldn't have the guts to tell your greatest sin to your neighbor.
Yep.
And people are out here doing it in public, and you condemn them. Like, how dare you, hypocrite?
Yeah, I think we get so scared as Christians.
Yeah.
Because we think that if someone confesses a sin or whatever, and we say, okay, there's grace for you. Like somehow we think like we're not celebrating it. I don't think anyone is sitting here being like, I'm so happy for what Michael Tate did. I mean, before that, right?
No.
But I can say, like,
I'm so glad there's grace for him.
yeah, and I'm so and
I'm so glad there's grace for me.
yes, because I have this tattoo on my arm.
Yeah.
And it's from one of the Desert Fathers. And so the story goes that the phrase on here is "He today, I tomorrow." And the story goes there was a monk in the desert, and he was like head monk, and lowlier monk comes to him and says, Father, did you hear what Brother Lawrence did? And the father looks at him and says, "He today, I tomorrow."
Yeah.
We're all like, there are some things, stupid things that I did while drunk that if there was a cop there, I would have been pulled over.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not I can't pridefully say, well, I don't have a DUI. I should have
Right.
several DUIs.
Yeah.
Right. He today, I tomorrow. Just because this guy got caught for the DUI, he's worse than me? No. I'm the same person. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to see those people that fall like we're the same person.
Yeah.
We're the same person. And I'm hoping that's why I say the book is about alcohol in a sense, right? But it's really just the vehicle to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's for anyone. It's for anyone who's struggled with doing something they don't want to do, like Paul in Romans 7. And I think, and I even go through the Bible on this, is the Bible makes room for messy sanctification. And I say this, God only works through sinners.
Yes.
There's only one person that wasn't, right?
Yes.
But other than that, he only works through sinners.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. And when you embrace that you're a sinner and I'm a sinner, not just before we come to Jesus, but after. Someone I'll end
I
up,
would say particularly after.
well, that's what I was gonna say. Someone, I'll end with this. It's like someone. I was talking to a pastor, and he said I was going to go speak at his church. He wanted to talk to me first, and so we're talking, and And I'm like, oh, I don't know. What's like, and I'm just like, I'm going to lay it out there. I am who I am. I'm going to come speak at your church. So, and he's like, I'm so glad to hear you say this stuff. I'm like, oh. And this is like a rural Baptist church in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I talked to all these, he's like, I was a youth minister for a long time. He's like, I would talk to all these parents and they're all worried and, well, Johnny's, he's saved, but he's, whatever. And he says, he'd say, Mrs. Johnson, do you realize that if Johnny come to know the Lord at 12, that most of his life will be, like, most of his sins will be committed. All, like, 99% of his sins will be committed after he comes to Jesus.
Yes.
Like, what? Yeah. Most of your sins will be committed after you come to Jesus. Like,
yes.
Think about that. And now, when you think about that, offer that grace to others.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm thankful you're talking about it. Where do you want people to get the book?
Yeah, so the best place to go is christianalcoholic.com.
Okay.
And so if you go there, you can, it's kind of a landing page for wherever you want to buy the book. But there's also, bonuses. If you purchase the book and put in your receipt, you can get like bonus chapter, roundtable, extra examples and resource guide, as well as I have a podcast called Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic as well. And so we talk to a lot of people, including Doug, about, what it looks like to be a Christian has a sanctification story, which, newsflash, we all do,
yeah.
Right? And so if they go to christianalcoholic.com, that's the best place.
I want to say this as a wife who has gone through this with my husband. I said one day I was speaking at a place called Catholic Family Land, which sounds dumb, but it's like the most amazing place on the planet. Like it sounds like a place where there'd be like a broken down Ferris wheel with
right.
Mary and Jesus on the bucket, but it's not. It's like the most amazing place in the world. And I was speaking there, and Doug was in the audience, and I was talking. My talk was about marriage and whatever. And Doug's been sober now for several years, and we've been married now for 20 years. The last 5 years of our marriage, probably since he's been sober, it has been the best years of our marriage, hands down, best years of our marriage. He has risen up to be who God has meant him to be in our marriage, and I've allowed him to become who God created him to be in our marriage. And I was standing on that stage and just kind of talking about marriage and our marriage in particular, and all the things that we've gone through in our marriage, leaving Planned Parenthood, and it's the same. Like when I left Planned Parenthood, people were like, "Oh my God, that was probably so great for your marriage," and I was like, "Actually, that was like the hardest time of our marriage because we were figuring out Jesus and all these things and all this healing and everything." But I remember just standing on stage just 2 years ago. I remember standing on stage, and all the things that he supported me through, and I'm sure it's been that way in your marriage too. You support each other through different things, and I felt like through our marriage he had supported me probably more, through going to school and Planned Parenthood and all these ridiculous things I'd done. And I just stood there and I looked at him and I just said, Doug's alcohol addiction, being able to support him through that, knowing I was never going to leave him. I was never going to leave. And I told him that one day, like, this is bad. What you're doing is bad. What you're doing to me and our children and our family, like it's tearing us up, right? But I'm never going to leave you. I'm never going to divorce you. Like I may eventually have to go live with my parents. I may have to go take the children and live with my parents for safety, but I'm never divorcing you. So you will be a single person who is married, and you will never be able to marry anyone else because I'm never giving up on this marriage. And I said, going through that and being his support has truly been the greatest honor of my life. And I could say that after seeing the fruit of him being triumphant over that demon that had been taking over his life. And I know that just coming from a wife's position, that has to be how your wife feels right now.
Yeah, and we're actually going to do a whole episode where we talk with the wives.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important. And I think there's probably a lot of women who are listening who are like, okay, my husband's struggling with the same thing, and they don't understand that what you just said is possible.
Yeah, and it is.
And it is. And like Doug and I aren't the special cases.
No.
Like, we were bad.
Yeah.
We were bad. And so
I don't tell those stories because that's really Doug's story to tell, you know, and he shares as he wants to. But there were times when I just thought, I don't know, God. Like, I don't know how he's going to get over this. Like, I don't know that this is ever going to happen, but I'm never giving up on my marriage.
Yeah. And my wife was like, and it sounds trite, but it's just true. And I know it's true for you. Like, she prayed.
Yes.
She prayed so hard, so fervently for so long. Yeah. And some people are like, okay, like, and there's different schools of thought on this, but like, my wife said, I'm not going to stage an intervention.
No.
I'm not going to, all of a sudden you walk into the room, because she said,
no,
that's not, I need you to change because you and God, you and the Holy Spirit have had an encounter.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just behavior modification. And this is what, and I say this, you can get sober without Jesus. Millions of people have, right? But here's what you're missing. You're missing the most flourishing life that's possible. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to go to AA or celebrate recovery,
and that's why I think AA misses the mark, because it's all about like a higher being or whatever, but it's not an encounter with Jesus.
It's not. People are like, well, we talked about the higher power. I'm like, but Bob's higher power is literally the light socket.
It could be Allah, and it could be some universal Unitarian thing.
Yeah.
It could be, the Halley's Bob Comet or whatever. it could be anything. It's not the Trinitarian God. It's not the God that you have a personal encounter with. And, people will always say, well, you got to get sober for you. Let me tell you something. Doug got sober for me. Doug got sober for his family. Doug got sober because he knew that Jesus was calling him to do it.
Yes.
For us.
Yes.
And so he did not get sober for himself. He got sober because Jesus said to him, I have called you to be a husband. Yes. Your vocation is to be a husband and a father, and you are not doing it. Yes. You're not doing it well. Yeah. And so it wasn't about him at all.
Yeah.
It was about the vocation that God had called him to do.
And that's why I say the first step that I took and I continue to take is abiding.
Yes.
Abiding with Christ, right? And as I abide with Christ, and so people who are listening to this, wives, husbands, or maybe the roles are reversed.
Yeah.
How is this possible? Well, Doug had this, I had this. The Holy Spirit finally broke through, right? And then it became about living for someone other than yourself.
Yep.
And I can tell you, it may seem hopeless, but it is possible. My wife prayed for years.
Yeah, I did
prayed
too.
For years, right? And I can tell you that life on the other side is so much better. It's even better with Jesus, right? That's what I want. And I tell people, like, I didn't shoot for sobriety. I had tried over the years to get sober, right? Giving it up for a month, 2 months, 2 weeks, right? I wrote this article that said, how was I able to stop drinking? I finally stopped trying to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Like C.S. Lewis talks about, like, shoot for heaven and you get the earth thrown in.
Yeah.
It's like I shot for Jesus and I got sobriety thrown in. And that's what I want for people.
Yeah.
If you just do sobriety, you can be sober for the rest of your life. You're missing out.
Yeah, you are.
That's not the goal. The goal of my life, and Doug and I have talked about this, the goal of my life is not to forever just be the Christian alcoholic. And you're like, you just wrote a book called Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. Good, yeah, that was stupid. I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? I want people to, like, embrace the message.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But, like, for the rest of my life, like, it's not about going to meetings every week. Do I go? I go to, my church has a recovery ministry. Do I go? Yes. Right?
Yeah.
But it's not out of this, like, if I don't go,
I'm going to screw up.
You know? And I talk to people that are like, I go to 3 meetings a day. And I'm like, man, that sounds like bondage.
Something's missing. That is bondage.
Like, you traded your master.
You're shackled in, man.
Yeah. Right? So it's like, I want Jesus.
Yeah. You traded a vice for another vice. That sucks.
Yeah. You're addicted to.
You're addicted to a
addiction?
meeting.
Yeah. Right? And people don't, like, I will get hate emails.
For sure. I will too.
Because of that. Because of saying that.
Yeah, because people are addicted to AA.
And they're Christians, and I'm not saying, like, I had a family member who was struggling, and he was, like, in a rural community, and I mean, everyone knew he was an alcoholic. Right?
Yeah.
And he finally realizes it, right? And he's like, what do I do? And, like, there's nothing available to him, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, go to an AA meeting.
Sure.
Right? Like, if that helps you, like, I want you to be alive, and I want you to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Right? Don't worship it.
Yeah.
Don't treat it as
and
the
that's how
end
some
all.
people, it becomes an idol
And
to them.
You know, and I know you're Catholic, so I'm sorry, but I'll say John Calvin said, you know, our hearts are idol factories.
Yeah.
You know?
They are.
But I'm sure Augustine, who I love, said something similar.
Right, I'm just saying St. Paul or St. Thomas said something similar, so it's fine. Thank you, John, for coming on, being so open and vulnerable.
Thank you. And thank you for, I mean, I know you and Doug talk about this. And so I will say that Doug's talking about this. You never know who's listening.
Yeah.
And you never, like, you may be, it may have taken me 10 steps along the journey to finally have the Holy Spirit breakthrough. And Doug was maybe step 3 and maybe 6, you know, with his posts. And so don't lament if you're like, if you share your story, if you talk about this and you know, the person you're talking to isn't giving it up right away. And that's to anyone out there, is like, you may just be step 3 of 10, and it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Go get Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. Website again?
ChristianAlcoholic.com.
ChristianAlcoholic.com. Thank you, John, for coming on. Thank you all for listening, watching once again. And until next time, stay safe out there and keep sharing the good news of Jesus Christ.